Speed. Stand by. You've taken us through the warm-up, man. We got to watch an absolutely electric bullpen, which you and I will talk about later because, frankly, it's just kind of fucked up what you did to me out there. Not cool. Unfair is unfair. Unfair is what it is.
Come on, we got a couple more. Let's go.
A lot of people have learned about you, have heard about you. You burst onto the scene. I'm not quite sure that people really understand the science behind the evolution of Mason Miller. And I mean science in a couple ways. Physicality, first and foremost, and we'll talk about that, but obviously the science behind the craft. But when we talk about who Mason Miller was and who Mason Miller is today, there was a path traveled. Yeah. There was a road here. You had to do some unearthing, not necessarily inside of yourself, but quite literally with yourself. Take us through that. A guy who's 82, 84 on the bump, maybe not feeling great, got to go to the doctor, get some things looked at, and then all of a sudden, boom, you find out something that would change your entire life.
Yeah. 2018, diabetes diagnosis. Coming out of high school, I'd sniff 90, you know, not to toot my own horn, but then seeing that regress and seeing the numbers that I had playing at Division III, 7 ERA, struggling, not really accustomed to having that kind of struggle, but right. Then just off the field, everything I was feeling too. So ending up getting that diagnosis after losing 30 pounds, losing the velocity, that all kind of came back really quick. And then after that, just building incrementally each year. You hear mass is gas, and you're like, well, I just got to get bigger, you know? I got the frame, I'm 6'5", like, $180's not cutting it.
No.
So just keeping in the weight room, and I'd established a lot of good foundation, you know, kind of just things that I wanted to do, watching videos, learning, reading books, and I feel like I had that foundation in the weight room. So then once I got healthy, got on to the medicine that I take insulin daily each time I eat, and seeing that start to show up, it's just like wind at your sails, you know.
Sure.
After being beat down and, you know, feeling like you're doing everything right, and then starting to see those results start coming in waves, gives you the motivation to keep going. And at that point, you know, I mean, I had a great year in 2019 at Division III, but at that point, it's like you don't really comprehend the levels of D2, D1. It's like, well, I had a lot of success here, but who knows how that would translate.
Sure, does it play up?
Yeah, and fast forward through COVID and getting my extra year and going to Gardner-Webb and then having a good year there as well. You know, then it's like, okay, Gardner-Webb was me going in on baseball. It's like, I want to play baseball post-collegiately.
So that really helped you sort of make that full sale commitment, that sell out to the craft.
I mean, going to Gardner-Webb, I could have never forecasted that this is how it would turn out, you know?
Right.
But going in for a 5th year of school, you know, there's guys that come out of D3 and play pro ball, but there's not a lot of them. So it's, you know, I'm going to give it my best and see where the chips fall. But getting to Gardner-Webb, this is my platform to get to the next level.
Being able to get a handle on what was occurring physically clearly led you to a place where you could start to get comfortable and really start to focus on who you were as an athlete, who you were as a pitcher. Being in love or trying to at least figure out a way to have fun with the process, the science of warming up. Why the priority there?
I mean, it's crucial the older you get, you know. I mean, when you're 18, your body's like, you can show up, hit a couple arm circles, start throwing, and you're good to go.
And you got 95, 98, a hundo.
And then that's also daily, how much you're doing. Like, you might have 3 games a week, something like that. But now you're playing games every day. You know, how do I get my body to show up and show out tonight? But then additionally, how can I bounce back and be ready to go tomorrow?
Sure.
So that warm up and that activation and just having something that your body can lean into and, you know, get primed up where it's like, hey, I don't have to come into the weight room feeling great, but when I leave, I'm going to feel better than when I came in.
Have you been able to, and especially here at Battleground with all of the resources available to you, do you feel like you've been able to raise your game intellectually? Has the tech allowed you to evolve?
Yes, 100%. I think the biggest thing you can do is be informed about it.
Sure.
You know, I don't want somebody telling you, like, this is your number, this is the ride on your fastball, we want to get it to here. It's like, okay, well, I need to understand that in order to fully buy in and work and refine things to get to that point. You know, you don't want it to be a coach analytics guy telling you, hey, this is what you need to do, and just being like, okay, just hands off, whatever. Like, at the end of the day, it's like it's your career.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand everything that goes into it and why you're doing each thing for you to be fully bought into it, even just subconsciously.
Sure.
And then that extra 5% is often the difference. I mean, now you see it with the amount of talent that's, around the world in the game, where 20 years ago, it's like guys come out of high school and they're just the truth and they're going to be the next Bryce Harper,
Right.
And it's kind of just no questions asked. And I don't know what exactly goes into their process in getting to the big leagues, but I can imagine getting to the big leagues at 20 versus now you see plenty of guys at 25. It's like they've grinded, they've fought, they've clawed to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And so just that margin of talent gap is just so much smaller. So it's like, how can you do the little things in an exceptional way that makes you, jump to the top of the pile and get that opportunity that somebody that with similar talent may never have gotten.
Langlier's ready for it, and guess who wasn't? 103 gets Corey Seager striking out.
You possess a couple of the absolute most nastiest offerings baseball has today. Everybody knows about your fastball. Everybody loves the fastball.
102 by you. Ding, ding.
Talk about the evolution of the fastball for you, utilization, usage, and how you've been able to rely on I don't want to say similarly, but rely on like Rivera did with one pitch. You've got other offerings that absolutely screw people up, but it starts with the fastball.
It does, yeah. I think you have to be able to command a fastball in the zone. Everything kind of works off of that. You don't see a lot of guys that, and that's not to say that there aren't guys, but if you are setting everything up with a breaking ball or change up, like that pitch has to be like really, really good, and you have to have great command of it. And I think spinning a ball, it's hard to be pinpoint command, like I'm going to backdoor this, I'm going to put it on the dot, I'm going to expand it. You kind of almost want to just pick a 6-inch, 12-inch zone. It's like I just need to get it here and it's good. But with the heater, like it's a straight pitch, like you can command that at a level I think that you can't with off-speed pitches. So for me, regardless of what my velocity's been, it's been strikes, heaters in the zone, strike one, 1-1 conversions, all that. And then I've always been fortunate to have good spin, good efficiency on my heater. So refining it and getting onto TrackMan and seeing the data and everything has allowed me to take that a step further. It's easy for me to say that fastball should be your favorite pitch.
Well, yeah, throw 1,000.
But, for the majority of guys, the pitch you're going to throw the most is your fastball. So, like, that should be the pitch that you feel the best about.
Sure, the most comfortable. It's the foundation to what you're trying to achieve out there. I never at any point in my life thought about generating anything remotely close to that. You're a guy who's made incredible adjustments early in your career. You have swing and miss stuff, strikeout stuff. You talk so much about getting to the big leagues and staying in the big leagues.
Yeah.
My man, that's how that happens.
Exactly. The weird thing, you get to the big leagues and you've worked every step of the way. It's like, I got to get to the next level, college, high school, single A, double A, triple A. You get to the big leagues. It's like, well, I'm not working for another level. I'm working to stay here. And how does that mentality become, I'm going to push myself to the next level and elevate myself to the top of this game, versus sitting there and wondering, like, who's in AAA that might take my spot.
Sure.
It's like, I'm going to leave no questions asked that, I'm deservedly here and I'm here to stay. And you earn that each and every day you wake up. And the beauty of the game is now, we had an incredible season last year from an individual standpoint. And we're coming in this year hungry and excited, and nothing that I did last year matters.
That's it. There's two things people don't give a shit about what you've done in this game. That's what you did yesterday and last year, Mace.
Yep.
Nobody cares.
Yep.
What is the one thing, or maybe there's a couple, but what is the thing that you have prioritized and you're telling yourself, I'm going to be here, right? Those guys that you talked about, those guys are they're on the same planet. You're in a completely different universe. How do you continue to get better? How does Mason continue the path of greatness?
Well, you think about everything that you do well, and it's really easy to sit there and taste yourself and, kind of say, like, I roll out of bed and I got it. but there's a lot that goes into it every day. And, you know, being able to be not critical to the point of harming yourself, but critical to the point where it's like, I need fuel, and like the stuff that's sticking in my mind from last year isn't blowing 104 by somebody. It's, you know, a game that I let get away from us. Our team put us in a position to win, and I didn't get the job done. Those games are the ones that stand out, and those are the ones that give me, you know, the added motivation and the added will to elevate my game so that I can minimize that in the future. Coming into the next season, you know, it's like, how do I become more consistent? How do I become, you know, even more dominant? And how can I get to that? And what's the roadmap? And what are the short-term goals? What are the long-term goals of, you know, that plan and that procedure?
Can you just show us, for the camera, show us fastball grip,
Yep.
show us slider grip, and if there's some other toys that you've played around with in catch play or bullpens or whatnot, just kind of
Sure.
take us through that and why?
Yeah. So even as recently as 21, when I was drafted, I had my heater with the shoe in, which, looking at now, I don't even know why I was doing that, because I feel like the seam to get longer for you. So
Okay.
I come over here now, shoes on the outside,
Keep you on it longer?
and it feels better to me with how the seam is coming off my fingers to get that true carry. You know, if you're a guy that's looking to sink it or run it, you know, maybe you're looking at things a little differently, but I'm looking to get as true spin and as much behind the ball, even from my slot over here, that this is the last part that's on the ball, so I want that influencing it to be behind it and get that carry.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, the four seam's pretty basic. I don't think about much. I kind of just grip it and rip it now.
Lucky.
I am, yeah, very blessed for sure. But I mean, even throughout the season, you see your pitch shape change a little bit, and you know, I went through a little bit of that at the end of the year where I was kind of losing the ride, and it was just kind of running a little bit on me, and just searching a little bit. Like, for me, it never really came down to the grip. It's like, I'm going to trust the grip, and it's just like where the rest of my body is and how things are syncing up and what positions I'm able to consistently get to.
And a swing and a miss. 103. Low goes down, 1 out.
Just blowing chundos. 103 top shelf.
Is there ever been a conscious desire to try to offer a different look, or is it just about understanding, I've got what I've got and I'm going to make it work?
I mean, for now, I've got what I've got, and I've had a lot of success with it, so there's no reason to deviate from that. I think that my slot lends itself to potentially later on developing something else. But until that is needed, you know, I don't need to have two good pitches. I want to have one great pitch right now, at least from a heater standpoint. But, you know, moving over to the slide piece, just pretty basic. I don't throw a gyro. I spin it. I'm very much supination over pronation. So I know I can get to the front of the ball really well. And the only thing I'm really thinking about with the slider is I'm always just gripping this seam with my middle finger, and it doesn't feel like it to me, but even when I look at some of the clips,
You can see the finger up.
my index finger will not be on the ball sometimes. There's been times where it's like, well, if I can get more pressure with that would be great.
Sure.
But it's almost like I just trust the feel of it, and what I'll play with is my thumb.
I was going to add, that's where I was going to go next.
And
Is your
it's almost
naked, or?
it's almost the same thing every year, and each year I tell myself it's going to be different. But it's like you stop throwing sliders for a couple months, and then it's like, all right, we're getting back to ripping it, and it's like you just grab the ball and you go. And I found myself just straight up on the seam a lot.
Really?
And last year during spring training, I wasn't really getting the movement that I wanted on it. It was just it was almost like gyro movement, but like I was
Not
spinning.
enough spin.
Woody, actually, Alex Wood, was talking to me about it, and he said that what he's learned is you just play with the thumb. You go a little lower for more vert, and then you just sneak it up a little bit, and it'll sweep a little more. So where I kind of found that I like it is right on the inside of this bottom seam. So I'm all the way on this seam, and then just thumb pressure just right here on the inside of the seam, so I can still feel it.
Sure.
I like to feel the seams.
But you're
I like to
anchoring
feel
on
like
top
I'm
of the
gripping
seam.
the ball,
Like on the
but my anchor's on the top of the ball.
ridge.
Whereas if I was on the seam or below the seam, it's kind of coming out and catching a little more on there. And I just like the true consistent spin that I get with my thumb up here, where I get the best of both worlds, with my grip feeling good but also the way it comes out is consistent and it allows the ball to spin and move laterally, which is what I'm after.
Simeon retired on the slider.
Good morning, good afternoon, good night.
There was a moment in time last year, and you were playing catch, and I was walking by, and you just kind of looked at me and you go, "Hey," and you didn't say anything else. I would just waited. You threw some pitches, and I just told you, I said, "You're a bully, and that's unfair. Why are you doing that to the rest of the league?" But you talk about having one great pitch, and obviously the slider's another great offering. When you throw 105, is there any desire to throw a changeup? Is there any flirtation? Like, is that a pitch that's kind of looking at you on the corner going, I know you want to?
Yeah, well, I threw it a little bit this year.
Houston now throws, and the pitch is swung on and missed on a changeup.
Using it in the game is the only way that it's going to get better for me. But I mean, I play catch with it, and like I said earlier, I'm not a pronation guy, so I can never really like turn it over. Whereas that has been kind of how a lot of guys that have good changeups, so you talk to them, like, what are you thinking? And it's like, just turn it over just a little bit. It's like the more I try to do that, the worse it gets for me. So I've just tried to orient it to get it to spin. Since I have the velocity, my changeup's going to come out in low, sometimes 94. You know, but ideally I want it as close to 90 as I can get. But if I can just set the spin orientation to be close to like a sinker, a one-seam sinker is what I've kind of ended up landing on. Just setting that spin to come out of my hand, and it kind of kicks it to like 230, and then just letting the ball work, you know? So I don't have to try to do more, you know? I just get the spin consistent. I get it to a point where I can say, like, this is my target and let it work off of there. But yeah, I think it's a weapon, and I want to use it more, but when you have two good pitches, it's hard to will yourself into, like, this is the best pitch to throw here.
Right, if it ain't
when you're
broke.
pitching the three most important outs of the game, it's like, this isn't really the time to flirt around and play with it. So just finding ways to work it in instances where it makes sense to do it.
Small internal battle between starting pitcher Mason and...
Well, right, that was why I had to develop a changeup, was for starting. It's like, well, if you're going to start 6 innings, you need to have a changeup. You need to at least have a show me.
Right.
But now it's like, how do I throw it and use it as a weapon to a lefty that gets to the fouls off a fastball, and then you're like, okay, well, I'll do this and roll it over and double play.
Right.
You know, it's just it's a weapon that you need to throw when it makes sense, and you need to have full conviction when you do throw it.
Have you entertained? You talked about orientation. Have you entertained seam shift? Because we're getting ready to sit down with a guy.
Getting closer on that.
Okay.
I'm experimenting a little bit with kind of trying to kick my middle finger up a little bit.
Yep, the kick.
Just trying to find something that feels natural, that you can get to easily, that's not difficult. I mean, I played around throwing a little bit of a splinker, and that was just a pitch that I was going to have to preset, because my hands don't split that well. I can't just shift over to it well. And for a pitch like that, where you primarily have 2 points of contact, you got to have that consistent. So like, I had no problem getting to it in catch play, and I felt pretty confident about it. Even bullpen, like presetting it. But then getting to the game, and I tried to throw it in the game, and it was like, I don't want to preset it because I'm not going to throw it that much. But you know, getting to it in the glove, it's hard to find a consistent place to it. So, you know, if the changeup becomes a pitch that I'm throwing 30% of the time, I might end up presetting that and working off of that.
Sure.
It's easy to get to a heater. It's easy to get to a slider. It's one rotation of the ball. And a changeup, when you have so many points of contact, if you want that consistent and you want that pitch to be something that is going to come out the same, feel the same, you almost want to have that grip like locked in and ready to go.
Feel. It's one of those pitches, the feel pitch of our lifetime that you got to have comfort with, you got to be confident in.
Yep.
Mace, I can't thank you enough, man. From throwing the last pitch in the Oakland Coliseum, representing the team in the All-Star game every single day, and there's no days off. Every city we go to, every day in that city, you are meeting with individuals. For you to just fucking get it, dude, at this age and at this early stage in your career is incredible. I wish you nothing but the best, Mace. You've been a complete joy to have around, man, and I look forward to you continuing to wipe people off the face of the planet.
Thanks, Dallas.
Good to have you, bro.
Appreciate it.